Hello, I'm Debbie Cavazzo, member of your Board of Trustees for the congregation. And just want to add a personal note that I, for one, am happy to be alive in our democracy, that even if it's hanging on by a thread, it's still alive. So something to be thankful for this morning. As we begin our gathering, I want to acknowledge that we are to you from occupied land of the Puyallup tribe of Indians. I pay respect to the elders past and present and extend that respect to their descendants and to all Indigenous people. We welcome everyone who comes, the hope for peace, and those who are seeking justice. We're a diverse congregation that encourages everyone to come through our doors in search of their own truth and belief. We invite all to join us in a search for meaning and community, guided by reason, respect for each other, and love. The wonderful thing about this virtual platform, I think someone was just mentioning it a few minutes ago, is that we can welcome guests from outside our traditional geographic area. So a special welcome to friends joining us from across the country. I invite you to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Links to the video of this service will be posted there this week, as well as on our website. You can find all of our program announcements this week in our e-news and listed on our church calendar. But here are a few highlights for the week. Following worship service this morning, the Nancy Slocum will host Kids Chapel at 11:30 a.m. While not with us for service today, Joe Rittenmeyer will be through the month of January, while Reverend Linda Hart takes a much-deserved break to refresh and renew during a one-month sabbatical. Joe is a minister in the UUA, and Tuesday at 10, Joe will be hosting times on Zoom, so you can be in conversation with him during those times. Links for all of our programs can be found in the weekly e-news or via the events on our church calendar. We also invite you to think about pledging, contributing to keep our congregation in business during this time. Lots of things going on. Our staff is working really hard, and a lot of hardworking volunteers. You'll be hearing from some of those folks today, in fact, during the service. So thank you for your ongoing financial support. This morning, we welcome our Social Justice Committee. They'll join us in our worship service. I'm sure they will have some insightful thoughts to share. The committee includes Laura Gardner, Jonina Wright, Tori Brewster, V. Carhart, and Kat Bilnowski. So now let us prepare to gather in worship.
Good morning. My name is Tori, and I'm a member of the Social Justice Committee at TUC. This fall, the Social Justice Committee decided to build upon the work that Linda began earlier with her book club by launching a Race Matters discussion group for members of the congregation in order to create a place to educate ourselves while also sharing honest conversation around racism and racial justice. Today's service will be centered around sharing what we've learned from the experience. You'll be hearing from members of the committee as well as two of our participants, Jim Tuttle and Janet Hazelton. We decided to base our curriculum on the resources provided by a group called SURGE, which stands for Showing Up for Racial Justice. SURGE calls their curriculum political education, which they define as the collective process of study, research, analysis, and storytelling that helps us understand our situation, what we are up against, and what we can do about it. The purpose of this is to build a shared language. We engage in political education to sharpen our skills in taking action for movement building, for solidarity, and social justice. As these were our committee's goals as well, it felt like a great place to start. From their material on thinking critically about racism, whiteness, and class, we chose to cover the topics of Racism 101, white supremacy culture, white privilege, and white feminism. It was important for us that the discussion group not come off as a lecture. We were all learning collectively, so we divvied up facilitating roles for each of the 4 subjects. In teams, we researched and collected additional podcasts, articles, videos, TED Talks, and other sources to bolster and expand on the materials provided by Surge. All of the participants studied their homework ahead of time, and once a month for 4 months came together for a few hours over Zoom for discussion. I really want to thank all of the participants for taking the time to come to each meeting open and prepared, and for showing up ready to be vulnerable. I know that I learned a lot and had quite a few aha moments, and I know I wasn't the only one. I also want to remind us to quote Brittany Cooper from her excellent book, Eloquent Rage. Individual transformation is neither a substitute for nor a harbinger of structural transformation. It is up to all of us white folks to continue to not just educate ourselves on the structural and institutional racism that runs everything around us, but to actively participate in dismantling it. And in that light, the Social Justice Committee is always looking for new members. Our meetings are open to all and occur from 7 to 9 p.m. via Zoom on the first Wednesday of every month. Or if you have an idea for a social justice project you'd like the church to get involved in, please contact us. The email information will be in the chat.
As you ready your own at-home chalice, we will be lighting a special candle of sorrow after the insurrection events on Wednesday. Even though we all woke up that day with an odd sense of excitement that our Senate majority had changed party hands, those feelings were quickly stampeded upon while watching in real time an attempted reversal of the results of our free and fair election. Worse still were the glaring and obvious double standard of the Capitol Police toward these mostly white, self-proclaimed patriots. This candle of sorrow for me is mostly to express the devastating and disgraceful understanding that if the skin color of these insurrectionists were just a few shades darker, the fatalities of that day would have far exceeded 4 people. Please join me in the unison reading as Nancy lights our chalice in the sanctuary. We light this chalice in deep respect for the mystery and the holiness of life, in honor and gratitude for those who have gone before, with love and compassion for those who dwell among us, and with hope and faith for the generations to come. Hi, I'm Janina, and this is Julian, and I'm his mom. Today we're going to talk a little bit about backpacks. Julian, do you have a backpack?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, you have it? You want to show everybody? Oh, let's reach for it. And you take this to school, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you take a backpack to school, or did you before COVID? Julian, what do you have in your backpack to make you feel safe?
I'm gonna show them.
You're going to show them? You have things like a change of clothes, right? A snack. We can just talk about what's in there. No. There's a water bottle, just spoiler, because we're going to get there. When I go to work, I also put tissues in your backpack. Oh, there's the change of clothes right there. Things that we like to have in our backpack to feel comfortable. That's okay, you can stop now. When I went to work last week, there were things I took in my backpack, like my lunch, my laptop to send emails, an umbrella in case it rained, some headphones to listen to music. When I leave my house, and when you leave your house, it's comforting to have helpful things with you that you can count on, right? To help you get through the day, isn't it? I know it is for me. Sometimes I even put a book in my backpack to read, or a notebook to draw or write in if I find myself in a situation where I have to do some work or waiting at like a doctor's office. He's parched. His part has taken a lot out of him. Have you ever found something in your backpack that you didn't know was there?
Mm-mm.
No. What about if someone put in a cupcake? Or what about that time I put a special note in your lunchbox? You didn't know that was there, did you? Those kinds of surprises sure are nice, and they make me smile when I'm away from my family or home. Yeah. For a long time, from when I was a kid to just a few years ago, I thought almost everybody had the same thing in their backpacks. The things we needed to feel safe and comfortable when we're not at home. Food, phone, a little bit of money, maybe a change of clothes like you, Julie.
Yeah, and some lunches.
Lunches, yeah, all those things. But as I got older, I started to realize that there might be some invisible things in my backpack.
And like water.
That's a really good one. Everybody should have water, huh? When I realized what was in my backpack.
Even tissues.
Even tissues. Yeah, that's a good one. Some people don't always think of tissues.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you something, though, about my particular backpack that took me a while to realize.
Books?
Yeah, books. I was carrying around with me. What I realized was in my backpack that I hadn't realized or even asked for was something called white privilege. I had some things in my backpack that made it easier for me to do things in life that most people strive to do. Privilege in my backpack looks like being able to get a good education with plenty of supplies and new books. It has meant in my life that doctors sometimes take better care of me to keep me healthy. Privilege in my backpack looks like being able to get a well-paying job more easily. Another invisible privilege in my backpack was also being able to buy a house more easily. Everybody should have a house, huh? Yeah. I started to realize that some of my friends with different color skin than me didn't have the same privileges in their backpack that I had, and that made me feel sad. More than just sad, I knew that it was unfair. I knew that the invisible things I had in my backpack needed to be shared, so we all had the same comforts and helpful things or tools in our backpack to make us feel safe when we're not at home. You know, it wasn't just my very own backpack either that had these privileges. In our country's history, there have been invisible things in my parents' backpacks and their parents' backpacks that have made almost everything easier and more comfortable to live. I believe that homes and jobs and good doctors and all of these invisible privileges or gifts should be in everyone's backpack, no matter what the color of their skin is. Being different colors from each other is okay. But the same comforts and safety in life should be the same, right? Everyone should feel safe and happy, right, Julie? Julian, you are such a big helper with such a loving heart. I love how you helped me today, and in small ways to help people who don't have a home or food through things like what? Our Help People bags. Yeah. As you get older, I hope you keep sharing Help People bags and also those invisible things that you'll have in your backpack, even sooner than I realized. It's the message of sharing that we talk about all the time. If I have more of something in my backpack, house, or my car than anyone else, it's up to me to choose to share with others. Will you help me share our privilege? Thank you. Well, that ends our time for all ages. I'll sing the song that we typically sing to our children on their way out. We hold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go. To nurture the spark of your precious life, we hold you in our hearts as you go. Thank you. Now is the time we offer our financial gifts to the work of this congregation. Thank you for your consideration to support our church during this unprecedented time apart. You may follow the link on the following slide or click the link in the chat to text your donation or contribute your support to our church members and staff working tirelessly to keep our congregation connected in new and dynamic ways. Every little bit helps, And while we are apart, our gifts are certainly stronger together. Please join me now in the unison reading as we dedicate our offering. We dedicate ourselves and our offerings to the work of this congregation, weaving a tapestry of love we call community, both within and beyond these walls.
The study group I helped lead discussed white feminism. The following reading comes from an essay in Harper's Bazaar by Rachel Cargill titled, "When Feminism is White Supremacy in Heels." When I heard about the tragic murder of 18-year-old Nia Wilson, who was stabbed to death in an unprovoked attack in Oakland last month, I could feel my heart begin to bleed. My community of Black women were grieving yet again. As we grappled with the realities of Nia's death, I began to use Instagram to facilitate a discussion. Hundreds of commenters asked the white women who they saw as friends and leaders to use their platform to highlight the tragedy of Nia's death with the same outrage of their Black feminist allies. And many did, both demanding that justice be served while expressing their disbelief that such a story hadn't gained national attention in the same way that Lacey Peterson's or JonBenet Ramsey's had. But there were just as many white women that somehow took this call for solidarity as a personal attack. There were grand displays of defensiveness, demands that they be acknowledged for all the things they had done for Black people in the past, and a terrifying lashing out that included racial slurs. The fragility of these women was not a surprise to me. In a crucial moment of showing up for our marginalized community, there was more concern about their feelings and ego as opposed to the fight forward for women as a whole. It is the type of behavior that rests under the guise of feminism only as long as it is comfortable, only as long as it is personally rewarding, only as long as it keeps on brand. But if the history of this movement has taught us anything, it is that intersectionality in feminism is vital. We cannot forget the ways that suffragettes dismissed the voices of Black women, sending them to the backs of the marches. If there is not the intentional and action-based inclusion of women of color, then feminism is simply white supremacy in heels. So what does allyship actually look like? Accepting the reality of this country's dynamics. White skin yields white privilege, and an ally is willing to use their privilege to fight with and for those who are marginalized. Allyship means uplifting the voices and experiences of people of color so that they are not continuously drowned out and ignored. What makes allyship so hard for most? Many liberal white women have an immediate reaction of defense when someone challenges their intentions. And it is in that precise moment they need to stop and realize they are actually part of the problem. It is never the offender who gets to decide when they've offended someone. If you feel yourself dismissing the words or experiences of people of color because you think they're overreacting, or because you didn't know, or because it has nothing to do with race, it is often due to your ego, not rationale. Listen and learn instead. Racism is as American as pie. In order for the feminist movement to truly be progressive and intersectional, white women must face this fact and begin to take on their load of work. We are long overdue to dismantle this system, which, if it is not intentionally and aggressively addressed, will defeat us all in the end.
Today's guided meditation is adapted from whiteawake.org's Breathing Through. Close your eyes and focus on your breathing. Don't try to breathe in any special way. Just notice your breath. Note that it happens all by itself, without your will, without even deciding each time to inhale or exhale. When you pay attention to your breath in this way, notice how it is less like you are breathing and more like you are being breathed. Breathed by life, the same way everyone in your house, in this congregation, and on this planet now is being breathed by life as well. We are all connected. Visualize your breath as a stream or ribbon of air. See it flow up through your nose, down through your windpipe and into your lungs. From your lungs, visualize the breath flow through your heart. Picture it flowing through your heart and then straight out from your chest to reconnect with the larger web of life. Let the breath stream as it passes through you and through your heart appear as one loop within that vast web, connecting you with it. Now open your awareness to the suffering, cruelty, and injustice that we've borne witness to today. Drop for now all your defenses and open to your knowledge of that suffering and of the wrongness of racial exploitation. You're asked to do nothing for now, but let the heaviness of that pain pass through your heart as you breathe the heaviness in and through and out. Be sure that the stream of breath flows through and out again. Do not hold on to the pain. Surrender it to the vast healing resources of life. You are learning to breathe these painful truths into yourselves and through your heart without holding on. Keep breathing.
Thank you, Laura, Jonina, V, and Tori, for your impressive Race Matters leadership, teamwork, and research compiling our rich study materials. Thanks also to all of you Zoomers for sharing your wisdom, but not sharing any suspicions that the only male who attended all 4 sessions might be a not-so-secret agent for the white patriarchy. One major takeaway for me is how all of the benefits of white privilege and white supremacy ultimately don't even protect whites, but instead lead to white fragility. In White Privilege, Unpacking the Invisible Knapsack, Peggy McIntosh helped us see through the obliviousness about white advantage. First, she listed 50 basic privileges of existence and treatment which she can assume every day as a white person that an African American can't. Then she triggered our imaginations with metaphors. White privilege is like gifts of unseen knapsacks and bank accounts, which just keep getting refilled. So with all of that privilege, what do white people do when their ideas about race are challenged? Disbelieve and get defensive. White fragility is how Robin DiAngelo describes this in her book, White Fragility, Why It's So Hard for White People to Talk About Racism. For whites like me, our socialization makes us think of racism as individual prejudices and intentional actions. Actually, racism is a multidimensional, highly adaptive system that ensures unequal distribution of resources among racial groups, all for the overall benefit of the capitalist oligarchy, of course, whose motto is divide and conquer. Whites built, dominate, and benefit from this system, even while individuals also face other problems. Society reinforces whites' racial interests and benefits, insulates whites from race-based stress, and keeps whites centered in everything, while it treats people of color as representing their racial identities. No wonder so many whites don't want to be challenged about racism.
I have learned a lot in the 4 months I've spent in the Race Matters discussion group. Tori and V and Jonina and Laura, provided us with dozens of excellent articles and podcasts and videos. They gave us homework and they led discussions. I want to thank them for their thoughtful planning and hard work and for helping me open my eyes to the racism in the United States. It used to be that when I heard the word racist, I thought of the Ku Klux Klan wearing white hoods, and I thought of people in the South who targeted and killed black people. I certainly didn't think I was a racist, but I have learned that I live in and benefit from a society that is based on racism. We live in a society that disadvantages black and brown people. I have been learning how our country was founded on racist ideas and how every person in this country has been raised in a racist environment. I have been shielded from most of the racism that permeates this country just because my skin is white. I have not personally felt the biases, the discriminations, or the fear. I have had white privilege my entire life, and I never thought about it. As a white person, I have the freedom to live where I want to live. I generally get the assumption of innocence in the legal system. White liberal people sometimes say, well, I'm colorblind. I don't see color. We are all the same inside. But if you have black or brown skin, colorblindness is not an option. I have learned you are either racist or anti-racist. You can't be neutral about racism. I am now actively pursuing trying to be an anti-racist and trying to be a better ally. I have learned that the first step to become an ally is to listen and stop talking. We white people appear to have a tendency to start to listen, and then we interrupt to tell the person of color what they really meant. Or we interrupt to tell the other person that, well, I'm not a racist. I marched with Black Lives Matter, or I volunteer with this or that social justice organization, or I have a black friend. Becoming an anti-racist is not easy. It means becoming aware of assumptions and biases that I have been part of all my life. It means self-awareness and regular self-examination.
Now it's time for each of us to set an intention. If any of this has moved you to action, please contact the Social Justice Committee. Our email is in the chat. We welcome your participation in our quest for social justice. I'd like to share a quote from Seattle author Ijeoma Oluo. She's the author of So You Want to Talk About Race. She was recently interviewed for King 5 for its television series Facing Race, and she said the following: I want people to shift from thinking racism means that you are racist all the time to thinking you have a responsibility and an opportunity all the time. And if you really believe that racism is an evil that must be eradicated, then you will engage with your privilege and take the opportunity to do more. But now that I've told you, you can't act like you don't know. Once you become aware, no matter how much you complain about it, you can't say you're ignorant. And I think oftentimes that's when people get upset because they didn't want to know. They wanted to continue going about their life and think, if I never said the N-word in my life, I wasn't racist and I didn't hurt anybody. But you're participating in systems that hurt people, and these systems are relying on your ignorance. When the tools are made available for you to do better and you find out about that, you have no excuse not to.
Our closing words today come from the beloved late John Lewis. Do not sink into a sea of despair. Never be afraid to make some noise. Stay hopeful until your dying day, and we can make a way out of no way. Please join me now in our unison reading as Nancy extinguishes our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Our closing blessing song today comes from our Kat Bilnowski, a member of our Social Justice Committee.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.